In this video, I wanted to discuss something which is referred to by yogis as samadhi, which in English essentially means to have an equanimous intellect. Furthermore, I'm also going to be discussing topics such as clear vision in comparison to distorted vision. And I'm going to give you an analogy to kind of make it more clear. So essentially, as I said, samadhi, which is equanimous intellect. So the intellect, in a sense, what the intellect is it's a tool of the mind to discriminate. Essentially, it's a tool to learn and understand reality, and its modus operandi is to dissect and divide reality into partitions and categories which it can label, and it can then create networks between each of the categories to create context to understand the content which it is perceiving through the five senses. So anytime you're observing something and you're learning it, essentially what you are doing is you are creating many divisions and splices in reality and giving it different categories, and that's how you are learning about whatever you're observing. So for example, if a complete novice was watching a football match, first of all, they would have to distinguish between what is a shot at goal, and a pass. See, to know what a shot is, you have to distinguish it from a pass, because both of them are just someone kicking the ball in a direction, right? So a complete novice might not even tell the difference between a shot at goal and a pass, right? Because they are similar in some aspects. It's just a person kicking a ball in a direction. But then this could be the first distinction that you make at a very fundamental, basic level, that, okay, a pass often is going to be less power, right? It's going to be directed at another player on their team, right? It's not going to be directed at the goal. Whereas a shot is going to be directed at the goal, and it's going to have more power generally, and they're actually attempting to score. Whereas a pass is not necessarily a direct attempt to score. It's a more indirect attempt to score, because it's more just build-up play. Because, of course, the whole goal of football is to score. So passing, even though it's not directly attempting to score like how a shot is, it is still attempting to score by doing a build-up play. It's just indirect, see? So it's indirect, it's not direct. A pass is towards another player, not towards the goal. It usually has less power. A shot is at the goal directly, and then a direct attempt to score with this kick of the ball, right? Etc. So that's a basic distinction that you've made between shooting and passing. See, you've made the distinction. Now you have two categories, passing and shooting. See, and even the novice understands this, but then the novice might think that there's only one type of pass. or there's only one type of shot. But then even in just the category of passing, there are multiple different types of passes. So you start to divide it further, right? Just like a normal side, like inside foot pass, or like a ping or a cross, right? So there's many different types of passes. A through ball or just a direct pass, etc., etc. And the same with a shot. See, all of these are just distinctions that are being made, and the distinctions, essentially, you're noticing. See, because a through ball, for example, is different from just a normal direct pass, right? And the distinctions that you're making, how you're splitting the two and categorizing them separately, is by noticing the difference between the two. That's how you're learning. You're learning the difference between the two. Same as with the shot and the pass. You're realizing a shot is directly at goal, not towards a team, towards a player on your team. It's with higher power, not lower power. A pass is to a player on your team, not at the goal. It's usually with less power, not with high power. See, so you're noticing the difference between them. Of course, some will have similarities, but then the way you're distinguishing them is by the differences, by what makes them unique. And what makes them unique are the differences between them, right? What makes them distinct. That's how you're distinguishing them, right? So the whole point of me explaining this and this analogy is that, for example, a master at football like Lionel Messi, they don't have to really think about it. They already know all the different types of passes, all the different types of shots, and they don't even have to think about it. This is just embedded in their system, right? Whereas a novice may not even be aware of the different types of passes that are occurring. They just think that's a pass, right? So this is me explaining what the intellect is. It's a tool to discriminate within reality, to create different distinctions and categories to be able to understand the thing, right? And samadhi is to have a completely equanimous intellect. So when your intellect is dissecting reality, right, and learning, that's the opposite of equanimous. That's like your intellect in action. You're seeing reality as divided, as if there really are separate categories and separate objects. Whereas in reality, in the absolute level, at the utmost highest level, everything is unified as one field, right? It's only for survival and for action within this third dimension where it is necessary for us to be able to distinguish between things, right? Even though in actuality there's not actually any there's not anything that distinguishes anything. Actually, everything is just all one uniform reality. But we have to kind of forget that to be able to survive in this third dimension, because this third dimension is actually illusory. That doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It's just that um, nothing is the way that it appears, right? Things appear in a certain way to us, and we take it to be that things are the way that they appear. We think that there are some things which are the way that they appear, and there are some things which aren't the way that they appear. But actually, everything is not the way that it appears within this illusory third dimensional plane, right? Nothing is the way that it appears. But to be able to detect the apparent distinctions within this illusory plane, the intellect is required. However, equanimous intellect is essentially when the intellect whilst your intellect is creating these distinctions, it's doing this through asymmetries. Your intellect is becoming asymmetrical to essentially like slice a category and perceive something in particular, right? And the moment you're perceiving that thing in particular, you're creating a blind spot of something else that you're not seeing, right? But equanimous intellect is essentially when your intellect becomes completely symmetrical, so you're no longer perceiving anything in particular. You're not perceiving any distinctions. All you're perceiving is the unification of everything as one. And that's why Samadhi is referred to as essentially the highest forms of meditation and so on and so forth. Because by yogis, because of course yoga means union, and union is the unification of everything. The unification of duality to non-duality, right? And that's essentially clear vision. Clear vision. So this is going to help me segue into... Well, let me just double check. Of course, there are many different types of samadhis and grades and tiers. There's some types of samadhis which you can, like, almost like it's a state, a temporary state, which you can enter into and hold for a particular time, and then you'll then exit out of. And then there are other types of samadhis which are more permanent. And this kind of more permanent type of samadhi is almost like a complete absorption in the self. It's a complete absorption in union, even whilst you are apparently interacting with the illusory world and apparently distinguishing reality. So, for example, to create this video, and as I'm explaining things, I'm creating distinctions using language to communicate particular concepts with you. These distinctions don't really exist at the absolute level, but they appear to exist on the relative level, which is the plane where this human body, like my human body and your human body, exist within and operate within, right? And this is where these distinctions appear to be real. As I said, they're not actually there at the absolute level, but they appear to be here at the relative level, which we can call as Maya or this illusion. But this human body, which is a part of the illusion, because this human body is a part of the illusion, and the illusion is all it can perceive through its five senses, it doesn't take this illusion to be an illusion. It takes the illusion to be reality, right? So it takes these distinctions to be real. And for me to communicate to you, we have to not act, but we have to take these distinctions to be as at least partially real, relatively real, although they're not absolutely real. Right. So anyway, this will segue me into the next section where I'm gonna talk more about clear vision and the joy of clear vision. The joy and the bliss of just having clear vision and seeing truth clearly and accurately. There's a certain satisfaction and fulfillment that accompanies clear vision. And within the illusory relative plane, right, this world, this society that we live in, everything is actually inverted. So when I say inverted, what that means is that what is true is taken to be false, and what is false is taken to be true. What is up is taken to be down, what is down is taken to be up, what is left is taken to be right, what is right is taken to be left. It's essentially almost the truth completely flipped on its head. The illusion, even though that the truth is absolute and the truth is all there is, so falsehood could never even arise, right? Because falsehood is false and truth is true. Although that is actually the case, the genius of this illusion, this Maya, is that since the truth is absolute, the inversion of that would be that truth is only relative. And if truth is relative, then truth is relative to falsehood, right? And so therefore, it brings in falsehood, apparently, right? And you could, in a sense, say that what this illusion is it is everything that the truth isn't. This illusion is everything that the truth isn't. So if you could think of the absolute truth as being uniform, which essentially means it's completely symmetrical to itself, so it has no form, then you could think of the illusion as being asymmetrical and therefore having a form, a particular form, and so on and so forth. And if you think of the absolute truth as actually not existing, because to exist there has to be uniqueness and distinction between two objects. But if everything is unified, then there's no distinctions, there's no uniqueness, and there are no two objects. So there cannot be existence. Therefore, within the illusion, existence appears there. It appears to be existence. So as I said, it's just completely inverted, right? So the whole point of why I explained that is because although clear vision is the most satisfying thing, in this inverted reality, it's actually distorted vision which is celebrated and championed. And to explain this analogy, Again, this is just an analogy, so don't take it too literally, but it does explain things quite well. So imagine that consciousness is like a glass, a piece of glass, right? Or like a window. And truth is just what is behind the glass. So you can look through the window, through the glass, and see the truth, right? So if the glass is clean, then you'll be able to see truth directly and see it exactly for what it is. However, if the glass becomes cracked or becomes dirty or smudged, then what you will see will actually be a distortion of the truth. And the thing is, you may not even be aware that what you're seeing is a distortion of the truth. It's just now, whatever you see, you believe to be the truth. So the distortion that you're seeing, you believe that to actually be the truth, not a distortion of the truth. You've lost that. You've lost that distinction. You now believe that whatever you see on that piece of glass is the truth, right? Not taking into account that the piece of glass or the window can get smudged or it can get cracked, which will distort the perception. So what yoga and what all not just yoga, but all kind of spiritual practice is attempting to do is attempting to, if for example, if the glass is cracked, fix the glass. If it's dirty and smudged, clean the glass, etc., etc. It's actually a subtraction. You're trying to subtract the distortion to be able to bring it to its original form of clear vision, right? You're not actually trying to add more onto the glass. See, what people are doing unconsciously is like this. They're like painting the glass. They're like throwing more and more on the glass, and they're kind of stuck in this delusion of whatever is on the glass is reality, forgetting that truth or reality is actually behind the glass. You're just seeing through the glass to see the actual truth. But now they think that the glass itself, whatever is on the glass, is reality. So they start painting it like how they want it to be and stuff like that. And then all they're seeing is distortion now. It's like so filled up with paint and dirt and dust and cracks that you can't even see what's on the other side. Like you can't actually even see the truth behind it now, the way it actually is. And that's what's being celebrated in this inverted world. And they keep on telling you to add more and add more to the screen, to the pane of glass. And it's just all about addition. But actually, if the goal is zero and you're already above zero, then addition is actually counterproductive. And at that point, you have to do subtraction, right? You have to do subtraction to get back to zero. So this is all that the spiritual practice is trying to do, to subtract all your delusions and distortions so your consciousness can become like a clear piece of glass, just so you can just see right through it. There's not actually supposed to be anything on your glass of mirror, your window of consciousness. There's not actually supposed to be anything distorting it. And you could almost think of the distortions and the paint and all the cracks to actually be the contents of your mind and all your beliefs, assumptions, and misperceptions and false conclusions. All of those are what actually end up distorting the truth that you end up seeing through the consciousness. So yeah, and furthermore, um, the more complex, like when it comes to distorting the image that you're seeing by adding more and more to the glass, in this inverted world, complexity is encouraged. And the reason why is actually because the more complex an illusion is, the harder it is to see through. Right? Like, for example, if you had that, in this analogy, you had that pane of glass, and let's say there was just one crack, you'd still see, all right, cool, there's a crack, but you can still see through it. But imagine the whole thing was cracked. Like, you know those glasses that are so cracked, you can't even see through the other side. Like that. Like, it's like the illusion you're creating, the delusion that your mind is creating is so complex that you can no longer even see through it. It now appears to be reality to you. And that is what spiritual practice is trying to counteract. I have one more point. I'm just thinking if I should keep this in this video or put it in another. I might as well keep it in this video. And then one last point as well is that once your glass is completely clean and you have clear vision, actually you will experience a lot less emotion. Because emotion, in a sense, is actually like another type of distortion. It's like an exaggeration. It's when you're perceiving something and you're making a conclusion about it. You're either concluding this is bad for me, or this is good for me, or this is making me feel uncertain, so I feel anxious, or this is making me feel sad, so I feel depressed, or this and that. All of these emotions are like wild deviations from the baseline. And you could just think of the baseline as just the truth that remains constant, that's always there. And then there's always oscillations, right? And oscillations are not necessarily bad because life are oscillations. But it's just these wild emotions that everyone's like experiencing and suffering, like this anxiety and depression and all of this kind of confusion and stuff. All of that kind of goes out of the window once you have clear vision. I can tell you from personal experience, I was a lot more emotional as a child, but then as I became more conscious, like at a certain point, like it's not that like you won't experience feelings, because before I even thought emotions and feelings were the same thing. And this is actually a bit harder for me to like explain or the distinction between them. But it's like you still have feeling, but you don't really have emotions like about the feelings. I'd say feelings are a bit more like moods. Like you still have like more longer like moods, which are like more subtle, but you don't really have like emotions. Like you don't have like large, exaggerated feelings about things, because actually all emotions are a result of kind of misperceptions, which you are then exaggerating into like some big emotion that's making you like feel some kind of way. But then actually when you just see like directly, clearly, it's just like you just kind of, you don't just stay just like flatlined, but like it's just very like small oscillations, and it's like very stable. Whereas you could think of it as the opposite, as very erratic, like very erratic and all over the place and chaotic. Whereas once you have clear vision, it's very ordered, very stable. Yeah, that's pretty much how it is. So I think I'm gonna leave that one there. Let me know if there was anything you were confused about. Let me know if it helped you, so on and so forth. If you enjoyed the video, please like, comment, and subscribe. And have a nice day. Speak to you soon.